Hi everyone, Roger Bain from Bain Custom Woodworking here in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. What you're seeing here is a media center that I'm creating for a client. It's made out of ash, solid ash. There's not a piece of plywood on this. It's all solid ash. I get my wood from a local mill here just outside of Sparta, Tennessee, and it's all rough cut. And then I mill it to the size that I need. That way it's cost effective for me and cost effective for my client. The entire project is all dry fitted in. Everything is where I want it to be. It's been customer approved. When I build a project like this, I try to send my clients pictures as I go so that they can see the process. If they want to change something in the middle of it, it's better to do it while I'm dry fitting it than when I deliver it to their house and they look at it and say, it's not quite what I wanted. So every customer that I have gets pictures throughout my process. So let me show you a couple of things that I've done. These doors here, what the client wanted was a metal insert. So I built my doors, standard shaker style doors. I use dominoes to put the joints together, and I'll have to show you a close-up later as I work on these. I routed a small groove inside here so that the metal can sit in here, and I just use storm door fasteners to fasten it in there. I used Berta soft close hinges, and we'll see those later on as well. But what I really want to do is I want to go through the process in this video of how I pull apart or deconstruct a project in the steps I take so that I know that everything goes back together the way that I want. And yes, and anyone that knows that if you dry fit something, you kind of hold your breath when you take it all apart because you don't want to take it apart because it all works. But dry fit allows me to make sure it works, allows me to make my adjustments, and allows the customer to see the finished product before I glue it all together. So I'm going to walk you through the process that I use and how I set it up so that I can glue it and put it all together, back together properly. Some of the techniques I've learned on Instagram or on YouTube or from other makers. Some of the processes I've just come up with myself because it's easier for me to do it that way working by myself. One of the things I do want to give credit for is there are some makers out there that I've learned things from, and I'll use their processes today, and I apologize up front. I forgot to write names down as I learned some of the things. Or I caught it on Instagram or a YouTube fast clip or a short clip. Somebody did something. I said, oh, I can do that. And that would make my project process easier. So I apologize up front if I don't give you credit. It's because I forgot to write your names down. And I'm sure that we all do that. So let's get started. Let me show you what I do, the processes that I use. I'll try to film it all. I'll try to get it in so you can see it and not make it too boring. So with that said, let's start taking this baby apart. Hi, I bet you didn't need to see me back here, did you? No, well, but this is where we're going to start because I have to take this whole thing apart. So one of the problems that I have is this is a nice clean finish right here. It fits well. I've made sure it fits well. It's clean wood. I've sanded it down to, I think I've sanded this to 120. So when I sand my wood before I stain it, I go to 180 or maybe even 220, 240. So right now I'm feeling it, I think I'm at 180 right here. So my finish sand will probably be 240, maybe 220 before I'm done. But the problem is when I take this off and re-glue it to this, I always get glue out of this joint. I can wipe it off until I'm blue in the face. I can wipe it off forever. Still going to end up with dried glue there that does not finish well. Yes, I can sand it, but honestly, I just haven't been able to clean it up entirely. And I'm sure a lot of people have that issue. So what do? And I learned this, I saw this on YouTube or I saw this somewhere. So I can't give credit, so it's not my idea, but it's somebody else's. I'm going to tape this joint. I'm going to tape this right up tight. I want it up tight. right up tight against that piece of wood there. And then I'm going to do the same thing coming down. Nice and tight. Now, does it eliminate all the glue? Absolutely not. If it did, I'd be a happy camper. But I'll get rid of 90% of the problems that I've had in the past. And I will do the same thing to the other side of this so that I don't get glue on that side. So I've got this there. The other thing I need to do is when I take this off, I'll have all the parts and pieces laying on my workbench. I'll do my final sand before I put it together and then clean them up when I'm done. I need to know that this piece right here connects here and connects here. So I need to know this is the right spot. So what I'll do is I'll take a piece of chalk, a marker, a pencil, anything that works. I've used colored chalk in the past. There's a white piece of chalk. I'm going to label this A1. I'm going to label this A1. I'm going to put an arrow here and an arrow here. I'm going to put an arrow towards the back, an arrow towards the back. So what I've done now is I've told this piece that it matches to A1 to A1. The arrows will match and they'll point into the back. I'd rather have more markings telling me what I'm going to do when I put this back together than try to guess. And I've done that in the past and things just don't work out well. I do this also when I deliver a project to a client. If I'm going to have to take things apart, maybe legs or a base or something, I will always mark it up. That way when I get there, they just slap together really quick, take the tape off, and I walk away. So let's go ahead and do the rest of these. I'm going to tape the whole thing. I'll tape them, we'll speed it up, because you don't want to be bored while I tape this entire project. So just hold right on and we'll be right back. Okay, so as promised, I went through and I taped everything. Got everything taped, got everything labeled here. Okay. All right, so we have everything done that we need to go. Let's start doing assembly. I put the shelf brackets in, I taped them, and it's hard to see and I can't zoom in from my perspective because I'm on my own here, but this tape says C1, this tape says C1. That means this piece goes on here. This is the arrow pointing to the back, which is what this is. So we're going to try and do this. It's a little difficult to do it when you're by yourself, but we'll swing it like we always do. We don't care about getting the glue on the tape. And I tend to always put glue on both sides of my work pieces that I'm working on. So this is the bottom section that we're attaching. These are the center pieces that we're putting in. There's really no logic to it right now. The hard part is that I have to flip this in order to get them in. So let's see. And this is where it comes down to working by yourself. Can be a little cattywampus at times, but that's okay. We can do this. So I gotta give us a mouth to hold screws. Don't tell my dentist. So get these screws in, get them started, and then we'll line everything up. And yeah, sure, it's always nice to have help. But you know what? I've been doing this for a long time without help at this point in my life. Yeah, I'm all right with it. I should be able to find my screw holes. So I get one in. It's a piece of cake from there. And I know that the back is... The thing about screws is they like to find home. Now, one thing I learned a long time ago is I don't like to guess. This is the distance from the edge of my panel to there. And that's exactly what I have right there. And exactly what I have right there, so I know that's square. So let's slide this back just a little bit. And now it should hold itself up and make it a little bit easier. So as you can see, I'm matching my numbers. Obviously, I don't have numbers there because this was put on last. I'm going to go through and I'm going to do the rest, and then we'll convene. Okay, so we've got everything pretty much assembled. Now we're back up to these dominoed ones that we talked about. So there are screws in here holding this bottom shelf here. But because I can't get screws into this one, I want to use dominoes for here. So basically, I'm gonna just get this one done. Screw these babies up. And they're really tight. I know that for a fact, which is fine. That's what I want them to be. Okay. Now, we're late afternoon now, and I was working on this morning when I was originally filming this. So what you're seeing now is my brain's a little foggy, which means I had to figure out which one went where. So that's where A1 and B2 come into play. And these arrows pointing to the back. I need to know where these are. So look, on this side it says A1, and on this side it says B2. So I know for a fact that I go this way. So let's get a little bit of glue on here. And it helps to sing to yourself while you do this, because after a while it does get a little monotonous, but that's what it comes with the job. But honestly, I wouldn't trade this job for $1,000,000. Let's get some glue. I get to invent on a regular basis. Customer will email me and say, can we do this? Well, yeah, we can do anything. And an old friend of mine I worked with in IT always said we can do anything. Time and money. We're almost here. So the dominoes you see standing up right now are actually through the shelf and into the divider below. So I've got some more support there. So let's make sure I have A1 and B1. Find my domino holes, and let's suck that baby down. Bring her back just a little bit. There we go. We'll fix that with a sander. All right, so that one's in. So now we have to come get this one. All right, so here we are. Day 2. This was all taped, disassembled, glued, and put back together using the markers that I put on the tape. So time to take off the tape, and let's see if we avoided 90% of that glue runoff so we don't have to sand so much. So let's get an up close and personal look at this, and we'll see what happens. All right, be right back. All right, so if you remember, we put the tape on up tight against here. We marked everything. This happens to be B2, and you can actually see the B2 here. It's rubbed off a little bit because I did use chalk. I put my arrows here so that when I put this back together, they would match. And I also put an arrow to the back. I did that on every piece of tape so that I knew where the back was, because once I took these apart, it was a little hard to tell what the front and the back on some things were, and I wanted them to match. So if you look really close right here, and let's see if I can get in here. Right here, you can actually see where the glue has run off. Now this glue right here would have been on the wood, which means I would have to try and sand that off as close as I can. Now, one thing I have seen with this is I might have to use a utility knife to cut some of this, but that's all right. We can do that. Okay. And this tape sticks pretty well. I like using the green tape. Some people use the blue tape. I don't care which one you use, but this is what I use. So see right here where it gets stuck, this utility blade just comes in here and picks that up for me. My goal again is keeping 90% of that glue off. If I can keep 100%, then boy, that would be even better. So look, you can see it right here, flaking off that was on the tape. That means it's not connected to my wood. I'd rather have it here. So let's throw that off, throw this piece of tape down. And look, you can see the flakes here that are sitting on the wood that came off the tape. Now, like a piece right here, I just have to come in here, and I could use a chisel to do this. But my utility knife just takes that piece of tape right off. Okay, so that's off. So let's go ahead and take this piece off here and see what we look like. And there's that piece off there. Let's get this piece of tape right here. You know, when I was younger, I probably wouldn't have been this patient, but I have learned maybe just to be a little patient with stuff like this. All this yellow that you're seeing, that's all flaked. So all of this yellow that we're seeing right there, that would be on the wood, and I'd have to sand it off. So let's go ahead and take this out of the way here, and we can get a really close look at that seam. There is no glue on that seam. That makes my life 100% easier. When I come in here, I can sand off what I need to sand off, but I am not sanding this glue. And what happens with the glue, if you don't get it sanded, the stain doesn't take and it looks bad. So let's get all the rest of the tape off all the rest of these seams, and we'll see where we go from here. All right, I know it looks a little creepy, but that's okay. So we're about done. We've got most all the tape off except for these two pieces. I wanted to just show you what I've been doing and what I've decided the best thing to do. So what I've done is every time I've gone to strip the tape off, I've scored the seam with a good sharp knife. So two things: good sharp knife, good sharp chisel. Going to need it because there's spots that you need to clean off. But what I've also found is instead of ripping it from the end, work your way all the way down. So let me show you here. For the most part, you're seeing it's coming off in one piece. So there we go. Everything's been stripped off. Everything's somewhat clean. There are a couple spots I have to clean up, but not many. I have flakes of glue absolutely everywhere that was on the tape and not on the wood. And my wife will inspect all of this, which she always does, and she probably will not find any glue. Now I'll come through and I'll finish sanding this today. I actually have a corner sander that I can clean up some of the spots that I need to, but the amount of sanding I have to do now is almost nothing compared to what I would have had to do if I had just glued the joints and let the glue flow out. Even if I wiped it off, you're still going to get glue out there that needs to be sanded off. I now don't have to worry about that. So I hope this has been informative. I've got this done. I'll get the final pictures up when it's all done. Check out my Instagram account, and that will have the final pictures of this entire process when I'm all done for the build. If you haven't subscribed to YouTube, I would appreciate a subscription, and any comments would be more than welcome. I would appreciate you subscribe to my Instagram account as well. And then if you want to check us out at BainCustomWoodworking.com. We're here in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. So if you're local, be more than happy to take on a project for you. In the meantime, for those that are making projects, keep making sawdust and enjoy the process. Okay, so let's rewind. I did an oops. I produced that whole video on YouTube. I got it ready. I edited it. I was ready to put it up. And I forgot to show everybody the hinges that I'm using for these doors on this cabinet and how I inlaid the metal that goes inside. So stay tuned. We're going to rewind and we're going to go look at that. So one thing I referenced earlier in this video were the hinges that I used and the way that I inlaid the metal into the door. So these are the hinges that I use. They are 110 degree soft close frameless hinges from a vendor called Berta, B-E-R-T-A. I've used them on every cabinet that I've built, and they install easily and they adjust easily. And if you can look really close in here, you'll see that the two mounting screws on the cabinet are there, but then you'll see three other screws. They adjust the hinge up and down, they tilt it back and forth, and then they also move it in and out. So you can adjust these doors to make sure they fit. And let's see how they close here. So they close nice and quiet, they close nice and slow, and they adjust very, very well. So now let's look at the other thing that we talked about. Hold right on. So I put screen inside, not screen, it's actually a metal insert that I ordered, and I'll reference the company down in the footnotes. But what I did is underneath this, I inlaid in the door with a dado blade about a 1/4 inch into the door and about less than an 1/8 of an inch deep to accommodate for the metal to sit in and sit flat. And then I put this frame around because the metal edges, I had to cut them with tin snips in order to get that to work because it came in a 3x3 sheet. So in order to get rid of the sharp edges, I just overlaid it with this framework on the inside. Now, I could have built the doors and embedded it inside the door frame itself. I chose not to do that. At this point, I'm really not sure why I didn't, but I did not. So in order to avoid the sharpness edges of the steel, I just put the border on the inside. And when you close the doors, you don't see that border whatsoever, and it does look well. So I can back up and we'll see both of those doors now that they're closed. In the meantime, for those that are making projects, keep making sawdust and enjoy the process.